some bonds don't break. They bury themselves deep in your bones, waiting, whispering, clawing their way back to the surface when you least expect it. This is a story about a love that refused to die, even when the world tried to kill it. A story about an alpha king who felt something he shouldn't have been able to feel, and followed it straight into the darkness that had swallowed the only woman his soul ever recognized. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, welcome to a place where love bites back and the moon never lies. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Are you team love conquers all or team some secrets should stay buried? And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button and join our pack. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's dive in. The ceremony hall had stood for 200 years. Its stone floors had absorbed the weight of 1,000 celebrations, coronations, matings, blood oaths sworn under the eye of the moon goddess herself. The walls remembered laughter. They remembered howls of victory. They remembered the scent of lavender and pine that always filled the air during the lunar blessing. But tonight, they remembered something else. Something wrong. Alpha King Ethan stood at the center of the hall, his broad shoulders draped in the ceremonial cloak of his lineage, midnight black with silver threading that caught the flicker of candlelight. Around him, the pack's elders moved through the motions of the ritual, their voices a low hum of ancient words. This was supposed to be routine, a renewal of vows, a reaffirmation of loyalty. But Ethan's heart was pounding. Not from exertion. Not from excitement. From fear. And it wasn't his. He'd felt this before. Years ago. A ghost of a sensation he'd taught himself to ignore, to bury beneath duty and the weight of a crown he never wanted. But tonight, it clawed at him like a living thing, sharp and desperate and familiar. His wolf stirred beneath his skin, restless. Agitated. She's close. No, that was impossible. Ethan's jaw tightened. His hands, clasped behind his back, curled into fists. He forced his breathing to steady, forced his expression to remain neutral as Elder Margaret droned on about unity and strength and the sacred bond between king and kingdom. But the fear, it pulsed again. Stronger this time. Closer. His gaze swept the hall. 63 wolves stood in formation, heads bowed, faces solemn. His beta, Liam, stood to his right, as still as stone. His gamma, Zach, flanked his left. Neither of them felt it. Neither of them could. Because it wasn't theirs to feel. It was hers. Ethan's throat tightened. His wolf snarled, pushing against the cage of his ribs, demanding to be let out, to hunt, to find the source of that terror that tasted like moonlight and lavender and a name he hadn't spoken aloud in 4 years. Ava. The thought of her name sent a sharp, vicious ache through his chest, a wound that never healed, only scarred over. He'd buried that name. He'd buried the memory of her smile, the way her laughter used to fill the space between them like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. He'd buried the phantom warmth of her hand in his, the way her scent used to ground him when the weight of the crown became too much. He'd buried her. Because that's what they told him to do. The council had made it clear, Ava was not fit to be his queen. She was an omega. Lowborn. Powerless. A liability. And when she vanished the night before their secret mating ceremony, they'd whispered that she'd chosen to leave. That she'd found someone else. That she'd never truly loved him at all. Ethan had roared his denial. He'd torn through the territory for weeks searching. But there had been no trail. No scent. No sign of her except for the broken silver bracelet he'd given her, found discarded near the northern border. Eventually, he stopped looking. Not because he stopped loving her, but because the pain of searching was killing him. And now, for years later, in the middle of a ritual he'd performed 100 times before, that old wound ripped open. Because he felt her fear. And it was coming from below. The elder's voice faded into static. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. His wolf surged forward, and this time, he didn't fight it. His eyes flashed gold, and the temperature in the room dropped. Your Majesty? Liam's voice was low, cautious. Are you? Quiet. The single word cut through the hall like a blade. Every head lifted. Every pair of eyes turned toward him. Ethan didn't care. He stepped forward, his boots heavy against the stone. The elders parted instinctively, confusion flickering across their weathered faces. He moved toward the center of the hall, where the ceremonial fire burned in its iron basin, and then he stopped. Right above the place where the fear screamed the loudest. His wolf clawed at him, frantic now. Dig. Break. Find her. Ethan. Liam was beside him now, his voice edged with concern. What's going on? Ethan crouched, pressing his palm flat against the cold stone floor. It hummed beneath his touch, not with magic, but with something older. Something buried. There's someone down there, he said, his voice rough, barely controlled. Liam frowned. Down where? The hall's foundation is solid. There's nothing beneath. There is. Ethan's eyes snapped up, blazing gold. And she's alive. Silence. Then chaos. The elders erupted in protest. Impossible. Ridiculous. The Alpha King had lost his mind. But Ethan didn't hear them. He was already moving, his claws extending, raking across the stone with a sound that made the wolves nearest him flinch. Your Majesty, you can't just move. The command rippled through the room with the force of an alpha's will, and every wolf in the hall staggered back, necks bared in submission. Ethan didn't wait. He drove his claws deeper, splitting the ancient stone, tearing through layers of mortar and rock that shouldn't have been there. And then, a hollow space. Liam swore under his breath. Zach moved forward, eyes wide. The elders fell silent. Ethan's hands were bleeding now, but he didn't stop. He ripped away chunk after chunk of stone until the floor gave way entirely, revealing a narrow shaft that plunged into darkness. And from that darkness, the scent rose. Lavender. Dust. Blood. Ava. Ethan's world tilted. Get lights, he barked. Now. Liam was already moving, shouting orders. Within seconds, torches were lit, ropes were brought forward. But Ethan didn't wait for any of it. He dropped into the hole, landing in a crouch on cold, damp earth 15 feet below. The space was small. A cell, maybe. Or a tomb. And in the corner, barely visible in the flickering torchlight from above. She was there, curled on her side, her clothes torn and filthy. Her hair matted and tangled around a face so pale it looked like moonlight itself. Her wrists were bound with silver chains that had burned into her skin, leaving raw, blackened marks. But her eyes, God, her eyes, were open. And they were looking straight at him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then her lips parted, and a single word fell from them like a prayer. Ethan. His knees hit the ground. What do you think? Should I continue to part 2? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see how this story ends. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next. Time stopped. Or maybe it shattered. Ethan couldn't tell anymore. All he knew was that the woman he'd mourned for 4 years, the woman he'd been told was gone, lost, dead in every way that mattered, was lying 3 feet away from him, breathing. Breathing. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven gasps. Her eyes. Those soft hazel eyes that used to look at him like he was more than a king, more than an alpha, just Ethan, were glazed with pain and exhaustion. But they were hers. Alive. Real. Ava, he breathed, and the name cracked open something inside him he'd spent years trying to seal shut. She blinked slowly, as if she wasn't sure he was real either. Her lips trembled, and for a moment, he thought she might speak again. But then her eyes rolled back, and her body went limp. No. Ethan lunged forward, catching her before her head could hit the ground. The silver chains around her wrists burned his palms, but he didn't care. He ripped them apart with his bare hands, the metal shrieking in protest before snapping like brittle bone. Her skin beneath was raw, blistered, infected. The silver had been on her for years. Long enough to suppress her wolf. Long enough to poison her body slowly, methodically. long enough to make sure she could never call out to him. His hands shook as he cradled her against his chest. She weighed almost nothing. Her frame, once soft and strong, was now fragile, breakable. Her scent, lavender and rain, was buried beneath layers of dirt and decay, but it was still there. Still hers. Liam. Ethan's voice roared up through the opening above. Get the healer. Now. On it. Liam's response was immediate, followed by the sound of running feet. Ethan looked down at Ava's face, his thumb brushing a strand of matted hair away from her forehead. Her skin was cold. Too cold. But her heartbeat, faint, stuttering, was still there. She's alive. She's alive. She's alive. The mantra repeated in his mind like a lifeline. His wolf howled inside him, a sound of pure, unfiltered anguish. Mate. Ours. Hurt. Broken. I've got you, Ethan whispered, his voice breaking. I've got you, Ava. I'm not letting you go. Not again. Her eyelids fluttered, and for the briefest second, her gaze found his again. This time, something flickered there, recognition, maybe. Or hope? Then she was gone again, slipping back into unconsciousness. Ethan's jaw clenched. He stood, lifting her effortlessly into his arms, and turned toward the opening above. Liam's face appeared at the edge, his expression a mix of shock and disbelief. Is that? Help me up. Liam didn't ask again. He dropped a rope, and Zach appeared beside him, both of them hauling Ethan and Ava up through the shattered floor. The moment they broke the surface, the entire hall erupted. Wolves pressed forward, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of confusion and outrage. Is that her? The Omega? She's been down there this whole time? Who would? Silence. Ethan's command cut through the noise like a whip crack. Every wolf in the hall froze, their eyes dropping in submission. The only sound was the crackle of the ceremonial fire and Ava's shallow breathing. Ethan's gaze swept the room, cold and lethal. If any of you have something to say, say it now. Otherwise, get out of my way. No one moved. No one spoke. Good. He strode toward the doors, his arms locked around Ava's limp body. Liam and Zach flanked him immediately, forming a protective barrier. The crowd parted like water, their faces pale and stunned. But Ethan didn't look at any of them. Because right now, the only thing that mattered was the woman in his arms. And the fact that someone in his pack had put her there. The healer's quarters were on the east wing of the palace, a sprawling series of rooms filled with herbs, tinctures, and the sharp scent of medicinal salves. Ethan kicked the door open without ceremony, startling the elderly woman inside. Your Majesty, Healer Margaret's words died the moment she saw what he carried. Her eyes widened, and her hand flew to her mouth. Goddess above. Fix her. Ethan's voice was a low growl as he laid Ava down on the examination table. Do whatever it takes. Margaret didn't hesitate. She moved quickly despite her age, her hands already reaching for Ava's wrist to check her pulse. Her face darkened as she took in the silver burns, the emaciation, the shallow breathing. How long has she been? For years. Margaret's head snapped up, horror written across her weathered features. For years? Goddess, how is she even? I don't care how, Ethan snapped. Just save her. The healer nodded, her jaw set. I'll do everything I can. But, Your Majesty, you need to leave. I can't work with you hovering. Ethan's wolf snarled in protest. Leave? Leave her? I'm not going anywhere. Ethan. Liam's hand landed on his shoulder, firm but gentle. Let her work. Ava needs this. Ethan's hands curled into fists. Every instinct in him screamed to stay, to guard, to protect. But Liam was right. Margaret needed space. And Ava needed him to trust the healer. I'll be right outside, Ethan said, his voice hoarse. He leaned down, pressing his forehead briefly against Ava's. I'm not leaving you, he whispered. Not ever again. Then he forced himself to step back. The hallway outside the healer's quarters felt like a cage. Ethan paced, his boots wearing a path into the stone floor. Liam leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his expression grim. Zach stood near the door, silent and watchful. Who knew? Ethan's voice was low, dangerous. Liam didn't pretend not to understand. About Ava being under the ceremony hall? No one. Or at least, no one who's talking. Then we make them talk. Zach shifted. The council's already demanding answers. They want to know what you found. What you're planning to do. Ethan's laugh was bitter. The council. Of course. He stopped pacing, his gaze snapping to Liam. Who was on the council 4 years ago? When Ava disappeared. Liam's jaw tightened. Elder Margaret. Elder Dane. Elder Charlotte. And? Your uncle. Roman. The name hit like a physical blow. Roman. His father's brother. The man who'd stood beside Ethan through his coronation. The man who'd been his advisor, his confidant, his family. The man who'd been the loudest voice against Ava from the very beginning. Ethan's claws extended involuntarily, cutting into his palms. Blood dripped onto the floor. Where is he? In his quarters, last I checked, Liam said carefully. But Ethan, you can't just. Watch me. Ethan. Liam stepped in front of him, blocking his path. Think. If Roman's involved, if the council's involved, you need proof. You need to be smart about this. Ethan's eyes blazed gold. She was buried alive, Liam. For 4 years. Smart went out the window the second I found her. And if you go in there and rip his throat out without evidence, you'll start a civil war. Liam's voice was hard now, matching Ethan's intensity. Is that what you want? Is that what she'd want? Ethan's chest heaved. His wolf raged, desperate for blood, for justice. But Liam was right. Damn him, he was right. Fine, Ethan bit out. But I want every council member detained. No one leaves the palace. No one communicates with anyone outside these walls. And I want a full investigation into everyone who had access to the ceremony hall. Done, Zach said immediately, already moving. Liam nodded. I'll handle it personally. Ethan turned back toward the healer's door, his shoulders rigid. And Liam? Yeah, if I find out who did this. His voice dropped to a lethal whisper. There won't be enough left of them to bury. Liam didn't argue. An hour passed. Then 2. Ethan sat on the floor outside the healer's quarters, his back against the wall, his head in his hands. His mind wouldn't stop racing. For years. She'd been right there, beneath his feet, suffering alone while he'd what? Moved on? Ruled his kingdom? Pretended she never existed? No. He'd never moved on. Every decision he'd made, every law he'd passed, every battle he'd fought, it had all been colored by her absence. He'd thrown himself into being the Alpha King because it was the only thing that kept him from falling apart. But she'd been there the whole time. Waiting. Hoping. Dying. The door opened, and Ethan was on his feet instantly. Margaret stepped out, wiping her hands on a cloth. She looked exhausted. She's stable. For now. Ethan's knees almost gave out. Can I see her? Margaret hesitated. She's unconscious. The silver poisoning is severe, and her body's been in survival mode for years. It's going to be a long recovery. I don't care. Can I see her? The healer's expression softened. Yes. But, Ethan, don't expect her to wake up anytime soon. Her body needs time. He nodded and stepped past her into the room. Ava lay on the bed, cleaned and bandaged. Her hair had been washed, the dirt and grime gone, revealing the soft chestnut waves he remembered. Her face was still pale, but there was color in her cheeks now, faint, but there. She looked like she was sleeping. Ethan pulled a chair to her bedside and sat, taking her hand gently in his. Her fingers were so small, so fragile. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry, Ava. I should have kept looking. I should have known. I should have. Her fingers twitched. Ethan froze. Then, slowly, her hand curled around his. And even though she didn't wake, even though she didn't open her eyes, it was enough. Think someone in the council is guilty? Drop your theories below. And if you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what Ethan uncovers next. Ethan didn't leave her side. Not when the sun rose and painted the room in shades of gold. Not when Liam brought him reports. Not when the council demanded an audience. He sat beside Ava's bed, her hand in his, watching the shallow rise and fall of her chest like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Hours bled into each other. Margaret came and went, changing bandages, administering tonics, her face growing grimmer each time she checked Ava's vitals. The silver's deep in her system, she'd said during one visit, her voice heavy. It's a miracle she survived this long. But Ethan, even with treatment, there's no guarantee she will. His tone left no room for argument. Margaret had simply nodded and left him alone again. Now, as dawn gave way to mid-morning, Ethan's attention was pulled from Ava by the sound of heavy footsteps in the hallway. He didn't turn, didn't move, but his wolf stirred, recognizing the approach. Liam entered without knocking, his expression carved from stone. "We have a problem." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Talk." "I detained the council members like you ordered. Started questioning them about who had access to the ceremony hall 4 years ago." Liam paused, his eyes flicking briefly to Ava before returning to Ethan. "Your uncle's quarters are empty. He's gone." The words landed like a blow. Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes flashing gold. "What?" "He left sometime in the night. Took nothing with him, no clothes, no supplies. Just vanished." A low growl built in Ethan's chest. Roman. The man who'd raised him after his father died. The man who'd guided him through his early years as Alpha King. The man who'd looked him in the eye 4 years ago and said, "She's not coming back, Ethan. You need to let her go." "He knew," Ethan said, his voice deadly quiet. Liam nodded grimly. "It's looking that way. Find him." Ethan stood slowly, carefully releasing Ava's hand. "I want every tracker we have on his scent. I want the borders locked down. No one in or out without my explicit permission." "Already done." "But Ethan..." Liam hesitated. "If Roman's running, he's not doing it alone. Someone helped him. And if he's been hiding Ava for 4 years, there's a network. People who knew. People who kept the secret." Ethan's hands curled into fists. "Then we tear the network apart. Root and stem. That could take time. And if word gets out that you're investigating the council..." "I don't care." Ethan's voice cut through the room like a blade. "She was buried alive, Liam. Under our feet. In the heart of our territory. While we celebrated. While we held ceremonies. While I stood on top of her grave and swore oaths to a kingdom that let her rot." The words echoed in the silence that followed. Liam's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Grief, maybe. Or guilt. "We didn't know. We should have." Ethan turned back to Ava, his gaze softening as it landed on her still form. "I should have." Before Liam could respond, Margaret burst into the room, her face flushed. "Your Majesty, she's waking up." Ethan was at Ava's side in an instant. Her eyelids fluttered. Her breathing quickened. A soft, broken sound escaped her lips, half gasp, half whimper. "Ava." Ethan's hand found hers again, his thumb stroking gently over her knuckles. "I'm here." "You're safe." Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, darting around the room in confusion. Then they landed on him. And she screamed. The sound tore through the room, raw and primal. Ava jerked back, her body convulsing as she tried to scramble away from him, but her limbs were too weak. She collapsed against the pillows, her chest heaving, tears streaming down her face. "No, no, no," her voice was hoarse, shredded. "Not real. You're not real. You're not. Ava, it's me." Ethan reached for her, but she flinched violently, and he froze, his heart shattering. "Ava, please. It's Ethan. I'm real. You're safe now." "Safe?" The word came out like a sob. She shook her head wildly, her hazel eyes wide and glassy with terror. "No. No, you're a trick. He showed me you before. He made me see you. Made me hear you. But you never came. You never." Her voice broke, and she dissolved into sobs, her thin frame racked with the force of them. Ethan's world tilted. He showed me before. Someone had tortured her with visions of him. Someone had used him, his face, his voice, to break her. Margaret, he said, his voice barely controlled. Sedate her. Gently. The healer was already moving, preparing a syringe. She administered it quickly, and within moments, Ava's sobs quieted. Her eyes fluttered closed again, her body going slack. But the damage was done. Ethan stared down at her, his chest hollow. She didn't trust him. She didn't believe he was real. Because whoever had taken her had made sure of it. Ethan. Liam's voice was careful. We need to talk. Not now. Now. Liam's tone sharpened. Because what she just said changes everything. Ethan forced himself to turn away from Ava, his hands trembling. What are you talking about? She said he showed her you. Used magic or manipulation or something. That's not a simple kidnapping, Ethan. That's calculated. Long term. Someone wanted her alive, but broken. And they wanted to make sure she never called out to you through the bond. The silver would have suppressed the bond. Not entirely. You felt her fear tonight, didn't you? Even through years of silver poisoning, the bond was still there. Faint, but there. Liam stepped closer, his voice dropping. Which means whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. And they had help. Magical help. Ethan's blood ran cold. A witch. Liam nodded. Has to be. And if Roman's involved, he's been working with one for years. The implications crashed over Ethan like a tidal wave. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a conspiracy. One that had been meticulously planned and executed for 4 years. But why? Why take Ava? Why hide her? Why torture her? Because she was your weakness. The thought whispered through his mind, cold and sharp. Ava had been the one thing that made him vulnerable. The one person who could have anchored him, softened him, made him something other than the ruthless alpha king the council wanted him to be. And someone had decided she was too dangerous to let live, but too useful to kill outright. They kept her as leverage, Ethan said slowly, the pieces clicking together. In case they ever needed to control me. Liam's expression darkened. Or to make sure you stayed focused on the crown and not on building a life with someone the council didn't approve of. Ethan's claws extended, cutting into his palms. I want Roman found. And I want the name of every witch in or near this territory. Someone cast those spells. Someone maintained them. And when I find them. The door slammed open. Zach stood in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes wide. Ethan, you need to come to the dungeons. Now. Why? Because we just found Elder Charlotte trying to flee through the servants' tunnels. Zach's voice was tight. And she's talking. The dungeons were cold, damp, and dimly lit, a place reserved for traitors and enemies of the crown. Ethan descended the stone steps with Liam and Zach flanking him, his mind a storm of rage and anticipation. Elder Charlotte sat in one of the cells, her wrists bound in silver chains. She looked small, diminished. Nothing like the proud council member who'd once lectured him about duty and tradition. When she saw Ethan, her face crumpled. Your Majesty, please. I didn't want to talk. Ethan's voice was ice. Now. Charlotte flinched. It was Roman's idea. He said she was a threat to the kingdom. That an Omega Queen would weaken the bloodline, weaken your rule. He convinced us, the council, that it was for the good of the pack. So you helped him bury her alive. No. Charlotte shook her head frantically. I didn't know where he was keeping her. None of us did. He said he'd dealt with her. That she'd left. We thought. You thought what? Ethan's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. That she'd just disappear? That I'd forget about her. He said the bond would fade. Charlotte's voice broke. He said the witch would make sure of it. That you'd move on. That you'd... What witch? Charlotte's eyes went wide, realizing she'd said too much. Ethan moved faster than she could react, his hand shooting through the bars to grip her throat. What? Witch? I don't know her name. Charlotte gasped. Roman brought her in. A rogue. She specialized in bond magic. Suppression. Manipulation. He paid her to make Ava think I abandoned her. Charlotte nodded, tears streaming down her face. And to make sure you couldn't feel her. Couldn't find her. Even if the bond was still there. Ethan released her, stepping back. His entire body vibrated with barely controlled fury. Where's Roman now? I don't know. He didn't tell me. He just said, Charlotte's voice dropped to a whisper. He said that if you ever found her, he'd make sure you couldn't keep her. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ethan turned to Liam, his voice deadly calm. Double the guard on Ava. No one gets near her without my approval. And find that witch. And Roman? Zach asked. Ethan's eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising to the surface. When I find him, he's mine. Ethan returned to Ava's room as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. She was still unconscious, her face peaceful in the dim light. Margaret had assured him the sedative would keep her calm through the night, giving her body time to heal. But Ethan couldn't shake the image of her terror. The way she'd looked at him like he was a monster. He pulled the chair close and sat, taking her hand once more. I don't know if you can hear me, he said softly. But I need you to know something. I never stopped looking for you, Ava. Even when they told me you were gone. Even when I found your bracelet and thought. I never stopped loving you. Her fingers twitched in his grip. And I'm going to find who did this. I'm going to make them pay. Every single one of them. His voice hardened. But first, I need you to come back to me. I need you to fight. Because I can't do this without you. The room was silent except for the crackle of the fire in the hearth. And then, so faint he almost missed it, Ava's lips moved. Ethan. His heart stopped. Her eyes opened, clearer this time, focused. And when they met his, there was no fear. Only exhaustion. And something that looked almost like relief. You're real, she whispered. I'm real. His voice cracked. I'm here, Ava. I'm not leaving. A tear slipped down her cheek. He said you didn't want me. That you let them take me. Never. Ethan leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. I would have torn the world apart to find you. And now that I have, I'm never letting you go. Her hand squeezed his weakly. There's more. Things I need to tell you. About Roman. About why. Later, Ethan said gently. Rest first. We have time. But even as he said it, a cold dread settled in his chest. Because he had a feeling they didn't have as much time as he thought. And Roman was still out there. What secrets do you think Ava's hiding? Drop your theories below and don't forget to subscribe. Ava slept through the night, but it wasn't a peaceful sleep. Ethan watched as she twitched and whimpered, her face contorting with nightmares he couldn't chase away. Every time she cried out, his wolf clawed at him, desperate to protect her from threats that no longer existed. Or worse, threats that still lurked in the shadows. By the time dawn broke, he'd memorized every scar on her exposed skin. The silver burns on her wrists. The faint marks along her collarbone that looked like restraint bruises, old and faded. The hollowness of her cheeks that spoke of starvation. For years of suffering, written across her body like a map of torture. And he'd been right above her. The guilt threatened to drown him. Your Majesty. Ethan's head snapped up. Liam stood in the doorway, his expression grim. What is it? We found the witch's trail. She's been living on the outskirts of the territory, in an abandoned cottage near Blackwood Forest. Zach's assembling a team to bring her in. Ethan's jaw clenched. I'm going with you. Ethan, you need to. I'm going. His voice left no room for argument. He stood, reluctantly releasing Ava's hand. Margaret stays with her. Triple the guards outside this door. No one enters except the healer. Liam nodded. Already done. Ethan looked down at Ava one last time. Her face was still now, her breathing even. He leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. I'll be back soon, he whispered. And when I am, we're going to end this. Blackwood Forest earned its name honestly. The trees grew so dense that, even at midday, the canopy blocked out most of the sun, casting everything in perpetual twilight. The air was thick with the scent of moss and decay, and the only sounds were the crunch of boots on fallen leaves and the occasional cry of a crow. Ethan moved through the forest like a predator, his senses heightened, his wolf prowling just beneath his skin. Liam flanked his right, Zach his left, and behind them, 6 of his best warriors spread out in formation. The cottage appeared like a wound in the landscape, a crooked structure of rotting wood and cracked stone, its windows dark and empty. But Ethan's wolf snarled. "She's here." He raised a fist, signaling the others to halt. Then he stepped forward, his voice carrying through the silence. "I know you're in there. Come out. Now." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door creaked open. The woman who emerged was younger than Ethan had expected, maybe 30, with wild red hair and eyes the color of storm clouds. She wore a tattered cloak, and her hands were stained with what looked like herbs or blood. "Alpha King," she said, her voice lilting and mocking. "I wondered when you'd come. Your name, does it matter?" She smiled, showing too many teeth. "You're here to kill me either way." "Your name," Ethan repeated, his voice dropping to a growl. The witch's smile faded. "Mara. My name is Mara. Mara." Ethan stepped closer, and she flinched despite her bravado. "You're the one who suppressed the mate bond between me and Ava. You're the one who made her think I abandoned her." Mara's eyes flickered with something. Guilt? Fear? "I was paid well. By Roman." "Yes. Where is he?" "I don't know." Mara's voice was flat. "He paid me up front, gave me instructions, and disappeared. That was 4 years ago. I haven't seen him since." Ethan's claws extended. "You're lying." "I'm not." Mara lifted her chin, defiant. Roman was paranoid. He didn't trust anyone, not even me. Whatever he's planning now, he's doing it alone. "Planning?" Liam's voice was sharp. "What's he planning?" Mara hesitated, and in that hesitation, Ethan saw the truth. She knew something. He moved faster than she could react, his hand closing around her throat, lifting her off the ground. "Tell me what you know, or I'll rip it out of you." He wanted leverage. Mara choked out, her hands clawing at his wrist. Ava wasn't just hidden. She was a failsafe. If you ever tried to defy the council, if you ever refused to follow their orders, they'd use her. Make you watch her suffer. Break you from the inside. Ethan's grip tightened. "And now that I've found her?" "Now." Mara's eyes widened. "Now he'll kill her. He can't let her live. Not when she could tell you everything." The words hit like a physical blow. Ethan released her, and she crumpled to the ground, gasping. "Take her," he said to Zach. "Lock her in the dungeons. If she tries to use magic, kill her." Zach nodded, hauling Mara to her feet. But Ethan was already moving, his wolf surging forward, his mind racing. Roman would come for Ava. He was probably already on his way. "Ethan." Liam called after him. "Wait." But Ethan didn't wait. He shifted mid-stride, his bones cracking and reforming, his clothes shredding as his wolf took over. His massive black form tore through the forest, faster than any human could follow, his only thought a desperate, driving mantra. Get back to her. Protect her. Keep her safe. The palace was in chaos when Ethan arrived. Guards shouted. Wolves ran in every direction. And as Ethan shifted back, yanking on a discarded cloak, Liam caught up to him, his face ashen. What happened? Ethan demanded. Someone breached the healer's quarters. The guards are dead. Ethan's heart stopped. Where is she? We don't know. Margaret's unconscious. The room's been torn apart. There's blood. Ethan didn't hear the rest. He was already running. The healer's quarters were exactly as Liam described, destroyed. The door hung off its hinges. The guards lay in pools of blood, their throats torn out. And inside, Margaret was slumped against the wall, a gash across her forehead. But Ava was gone. Ethan's wolf howled, a sound of pure anguish that echoed through the palace. No. The word tore from his throat. No, no, no. Ethan. Liam's hand landed on his shoulder. We'll find her. Will. She's gone. Ethan whirled on him, his eyes blazing gold. He took her. Roman took her. And if he kills her, he won't. Liam's voice was firm. Because he needs her alive. You heard Mara. Ava's his leverage. He'll keep her alive as long as he thinks he can use her. Ethan's chest heaved. His wolf clawed at him, desperate, frantic. And then, he felt it. A pulse. Faint, terrified, but there. Ava. The bond. It was faint, suppressed by years of silver and magic, but it was still there. And she was afraid. Ethan closed his eyes, reaching for that fragile thread, following it like a lifeline. North, he said suddenly. She's north. Near the old watchtower. How do you? I can feel her. Ethan's eyes snapped open. Gather everyone. We leave now. The old watchtower had been abandoned for decades, a crumbling relic from the pack's early days. It stood on the northern border, surrounded by rocky terrain and sparse trees. Ethan approached it slowly, his senses on high alert. The bond pulled him forward, stronger now, and beneath the fear, he felt something else. Ava was fighting. His wolf surged with pride. She's inside, Liam whispered, crouched beside him. But I count at least 6 hostiles. Maybe more. I don't care if there's 100. Ethan's voice was deadly calm. We're getting her back. He signaled the others, and they moved as one, silent, efficient, lethal. The tower's entrance was unguarded, which set off alarm bells in Ethan's mind. Too easy. But he didn't have time to second-guess. He stepped inside. The interior was dark, lit only by flickering torches. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair with silver chains. Ava. Her head hung forward, her hair obscuring her face. Blood dripped from a cut on her lip. But she was alive. Ava. Ethan started forward, and the trap sprung. Wolves dropped from the rafters, blocking his path. More emerged from the shadows. And at the back of the room, stepping into the light, Roman. He looked older than Ethan remembered. Grayer. Harder. But his eyes were cold and calculating. Nephew, Roman said, his voice smooth. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Ethan's claws extended. Let her go. No, I don't think I will. Roman smiled. You see, Ethan, this isn't just about her. It's about you. About what you've become. You were supposed to be strong. Ruthless. A king who put the pack above everything. I am that king. No. Roman's smile faded. You're weak. You always have been. And he gestured to Ava. She's proof of it. You'd burn the entire kingdom down for her, wouldn't you? Without hesitation. Roman shook his head. That's why she has to die. And why you need to watch. Ava's head lifted, and her eyes met Ethan's. And in that moment, everything else fell away. I love you, she mouthed. Ethan's world shattered, and then he moved. Ethan moved like death incarnate. His shift was instantaneous. Bones cracking, muscles expanding, fur erupting across his skin. His massive black wolf form crashed through the first line of attackers before they could even raise their claws. Teeth met throat. Blood sprayed. Bodies hit the ground. Behind him, Liam and Zach shifted, leading the charge. The tower exploded into chaos, snarls, screams, the wet sound of flesh tearing. But Ethan's focus never wavered. Ava. He tore through 2 more wolves, his jaws crushing windpipes, his claws ripping through muscle and bone. Nothing would stop him. Nothing would keep him from her. Roman's voice cut through the carnage, cold and amused. You think brute force will save her, Ethan? You think I didn't plan for this? Ethan shifted back mid-stride, his human form coated in blood that wasn't his. His eyes blazed gold as he faced his uncle. I'm going to kill you. Roman's smile widened. No, you're not. He snapped his fingers. The silver chains around Ava suddenly glowed with sickly green light. She screamed, a sound that tore through Ethan's chest like a blade. Her body convulsed, arching against the restraints, her eyes rolling back. Stop. Ethan lunged forward, but Roman raised his hand, and invisible force slammed into Ethan, throwing him back against the wall. Magic. Dark magic. The witch wasn't the only one I hired, Roman said conversationally, as Ava's screams continued. Did you really think I'd rely on just one failsafe? Ethan struggled against the magical hold, his muscles straining, his wolf roaring. Let her go. Why? So you can run away together? Live happily ever after. Roman's voice turned vicious. She was never meant for you, Ethan. Your father understood that. The bloodline is everything. The pack is everything. Not some weak Omega who makes you forget your duty. My father, Ethan snarled, still fighting against the invisible bonds, would never have approved of this. Something flickered in Roman's eyes. Your father was a fool. He let sentiment cloud his judgment, just like you. And look where it got him, dead before his time, leaving me to clean up his mess. The words hung in the air. Ethan went still. What? Roman's smile was cruel now. You thought it was a hunting accident? That your father just happened to fall during that expedition? Gods, you really are naive. The world tilted. Ethan's father had died when Ethan was 23, barely a year into his rule as Alpha King. A hunting accident, they'd said. A tragic fall from a cliff during a winter expedition. Roman had been the one to bring his body back. Roman had been the one to comfort him through his grief. Roman had killed him. You, Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. You murdered your own brother. I did what was necessary. Roman's tone was matter of fact. He was going to step down. Did you know that? He wanted to give up the crown, retire with that pathetic human woman he'd fallen for. He was going to make you king early and run off to live some fantasy life. He was going to destroy everything our family built. Ethan's chest heaved. Rage, pure, molten rage, flooded through him. So you killed him. And I'd do it again. Roman's eyes were cold. Just like I'll kill her. Just like I'll kill anyone who threatens the integrity of this pack. Ava's screams had faded to whimpers now. She hung limp in the chains, her body trembling, barely conscious. And something inside Ethan snapped. The magical restraints shattered like glass. Roman's eyes widened. That's not. Ethan was on him in a heartbeat, his hand closing around Roman's throat, lifting him off the ground. You made a mistake. What mistake? Roman choked out. You hurt her. Ethan's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. And now there's nothing in this world that will save you from me. He threw Roman across the room. His uncle hit the far wall with a sickening crunch and crumpled to the ground. Ethan didn't wait. He ran to Ava, his hands trembling as they reached for the glowing chains. The moment he touched them, pain seared through his palms, but he didn't care. He gripped the silver, his flesh burning, and pulled. The chain snapped. Ava collapsed into his arms, her body limp, her breathing shallow. Up close, he could see the damage, new burns layered over old ones, blood trickling from her nose, her lips blue. Ava. Ava. He cupped her face gently, his voice breaking. Stay with me. Please, stay with me. Her eyelids fluttered. For a moment, he thought she'd lost consciousness completely. Then her hand lifted weakly, touching his chest, right over his heart. Ethan, she whispered. He told me everything. Shoo, don't talk. Save your strength. No. Her fingers curled into his shirt. You need to know. Roman, he didn't just want me gone. He wanted your bloodline ended. Ethan froze. What? Ava's breathing hitched. I was pregnant. When they took me, the world stopped. Everything, the battle raging around them, the shouts, the sounds of combat faded into white noise. Pregnant. Ava had been pregnant. With his child. Where? His voice cracked. Where is? I lost them. Tears streamed down her face. 3 months in. The silver, the chains. I couldn't. I tried to protect them, Ethan. I tried so hard, but I couldn't. No. Ethan pulled her against his chest, his own tears falling freely now. No, Ava. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. He said our child would have weakened the bloodline. That it was better this way. Her voice broke completely. But I wanted them. I wanted our baby so much. Ethan's heart shattered into pieces so small he didn't think they'd ever fit back together. They'd lost a child. A child he never even knew existed. A child Roman had murdered through cruelty and neglect. His wolf howled, a sound of such profound grief and rage that it echoed through the bond, through the tower, through the very foundation of the earth. And when Ethan looked up, his eyes weren't gold anymore. They were black. Pure, endless black. The mark of an alpha who'd crossed into something beyond fury. Something primal and unstoppable. Roman, who'd managed to drag himself to his feet, took one look at Ethan's face and went pale. Ethan, you killed my father. Ethan's voice was eerily calm as he gently laid Ava down, making sure she was safe. You tortured my mate. You murdered my child. I was protecting the pack. You were protecting yourself. Ethan stood slowly, his movements predatory. Because you knew that once I had Ava, once I had a family, I wouldn't need you anymore. I wouldn't listen to you anymore. And you couldn't stand that. Roman's hands sparked with magic, green and sickly. I won't let you destroy everything I've built. You've built nothing but lies. Roman unleashed the magic, a bolt of green energy that screamed toward Ethan. Ethan didn't dodge. He walked through it. The magic hit him, wrapped around him, tried to burrow into his skin. But the bond with Ava, the mate bond that had survived 4 years of suppression and torture, flared to life, burning away the dark magic like sunlight through fog. Roman's face twisted in disbelief. That's impossible. You forgot something, Ethan said quietly. A true mate bond can't be broken. Not by silver. Not by magic. Not by you. He reached Roman in 3 strides. His uncle tried to run, tried to summon more magic, tried to shift. But Ethan was faster. His hand shot out, catching Roman by the throat. He lifted him effortlessly, staring into the eyes of the man who'd destroyed his life. You asked me once if I'd burn the kingdom down for her, Ethan said softly. The answer is yes. But I won't have to. Because you've already burned yourself. Ethan, Roman's voice was a rasp. Please. Did my father beg? Ethan's grip tightened. Did Ava beg when you buried her alive? Did my child have a chance to beg before you killed them? Roman's eyes widened with terror. No, Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. Then neither do you. He didn't make it quick. Roman had taken 4 years from him. 4 years of happiness. 4 years of Ava's suffering. The life of his child. So Ethan took his time. When it was over, when Roman's body hit the ground for the last time, Ethan felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. Just emptiness. He turned back to Ava, who was watching him with wide, tear-filled eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered, dropping to his knees beside her. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry. Stop. Ava's hand found his face, her touch gentle despite her weakness. You found me. You came for me. That's all that matters. But our child. I know. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I know. And I'll grieve them for the rest of my life. But Ethan. I'm still here. We're still here. And that has to mean something. Ethan leaned into her touch, his own tears falling freely. It means everything. Around them, the battle had ended. Roman's followers lay dead or subdued. Liam and Zach approached cautiously, their faces grim. Your Majesty, Liam said quietly. What are your orders? Ethan looked down at Ava, then back at his beta. We go home. We heal. And then. His jaw set. Then we rebuild. Everything. The council. The laws. All of it. The pack won't accept an Omega Queen, Zach said carefully. Ethan's eyes flashed black again. Then the pack will learn to accept her. Or they'll find themselves without a king. Liam nodded slowly. Understood. Ethan gathered Ava into his arms, cradling her against his chest. She buried her face in his neck, breathing in his scent. "Take me home," she whispered. "Always," he promised. The journey back to the palace was silent. Ethan carried Ava the entire way, refusing to let her go even when Margaret tried to take her for treatment. He brought her to his personal chambers, a place she'd never been allowed to enter 4 years ago, and laid her gently on his bed. Margaret worked quickly, cleaning wounds, applying salves, administering tonics. And through it all, Ethan sat beside Ava, holding her hand. "She needs rest," Margaret said finally. "Real rest. Her body's been through hell, Your Majesty. It's going to take time." "We have time," Ethan said quietly. Margaret nodded and left them alone. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ava broke the silence. "He told me you forgot about me, that you took a chosen mate from the council's picks." Ethan's chest tightened. "I never even looked at another woman, Ava. Not once. I know that now." She squeezed his hand weakly. "But for 4 years, I believed I meant nothing to you. That our love was just a phase. Something you grew out of." "Never." Ethan lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her scarred knuckles. You are everything. My heart, my soul, the only future I ever wanted." Ava's eyes filled with tears again. "We lost so much time." "I know. We lost our baby." "I know." Ethan's voice broke. "And I will carry that grief for the rest of my life. But Ava, we're here. We're alive. And if you'll have me, if you'll still be my mate, my queen, then we can build a new future. Together." Ava stared at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was small, fragile, but it was real. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. "Even when I hated you. Even when I thought you abandoned me. The bond never let me forget." Ethan leaned forward, pressing his forehead against hers. "Then marry me. Not in secret this time. In front of the whole pack. Let them see that you're mine and I'm yours, and anyone who objects can leave." Ava laughed, a broken, beautiful sound. "You'd really exile half your pack for me?" "I'd exile all of them for you." She closed her eyes, breathing him in. Okay. Yes." She opened her eyes, and despite the exhaustion, despite the pain, there was light in them. "I'll marry you, Ethan. I'll be your queen. And we'll show them what real strength looks like." Ethan kissed her then, gently, reverently, pouring 4 years of longing and grief and love into that single touch. And for the first time in 4 years, the bond between them sang. Not with fear. Not with pain. But with hope. The Alpha King has his mate back, but will the pack accept her? Comment your thoughts below and subscribe, because this is going to test them like never before. The announcement came 3 days later. Ethan stood on the palace balcony, the entire pack assembled in the courtyard below. Hundreds of faces stared up at him, some curious, some confused, some already darkening with suspicion. Liam stood to his right, Zach to his left. And behind him, still too weak to stand for long, sat Ava in a chair draped with furs. She'd insisted on being present, even though Margaret had protested, even though her body still bore the marks of her imprisonment. "I will not hide anymore," she'd told Ethan that morning, her hazel eyes fierce despite her frailty. "If I'm going to be their queen, they need to see me. All of me." So here she was. And here was Ethan, about to shatter everything the pack thought they knew. 4 years ago, he began, his voice carrying across the courtyard. A great injustice was committed within these walls. An injustice that I myself was blind to. An injustice orchestrated by those I trusted most. The crowd murmured, confusion rippling through them. My uncle, Roman, along with members of the former council, conspired to hide my true mate from me. They imprisoned her, tortured her, kept her buried beneath the ceremony hall while I searched for her, grieved for her, believed she was lost forever. The murmurs grew louder. Shock. Disbelief. "Her name is Ava," Ethan continued, gesturing behind him. And she is the woman the moon goddess chose for me. The woman I choose. The woman who will be your queen. The courtyard exploded. Shouts of outrage. Protests. Arguments erupting between pack members. Ethan could pick out individual voices in the chaos. And Omega? She's not fit to rule. The bloodline. This is madness. Ethan's eyes flashed black, and his alpha command rolled over the crowd like thunder. Silence. Every wolf dropped to their knees, necks bared in submission. The only sounds were the wind and the distant cry of a bird. I am your alpha king, Ethan said, his voice deadly quiet now. And I have made my choice. Any who object may leave this territory. You will not be harmed. But you will leave. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, a figure stood. Elder Dane. One of the oldest wolves in the pack, a man who'd served under Ethan's grandfather. Your Majesty, he said, his voice carrying despite his age. With respect, an Omega Queen will weaken us. Other packs will see it as a sign of weakness. They will challenge us. Test our borders. Our enemies will circle like vultures. Let them come, Ethan said coldly. I will tear apart any wolf who dares challenge my mate. But the bloodline. The bloodline, Ethan interrupted, his voice rising, is strong because of loyalty. Because of bonds. Not because of politics or arranged matings or council manipulations. My father understood that. And I will honor his memory by doing the same. Dane's jaw tightened. Your father was a great alpha. But he also understood sacrifice. He understood that sometimes personal desires must be set aside for the good of the pack. Is that what you told him? Ava's voice rang out, clear and sharp. Every head turned. She'd risen from her chair, supported by the armrest, but standing on her own. Despite her pallor, despite the visible scars on her wrists, she held herself like a queen. I beg your pardon? Dane said stiffly. You said my mate's father understood sacrifice. Ava's eyes were hard. Is that what you told him before Roman murdered him? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dane's face went pale. That's the baseless accusation. Is it? Ava took a step forward, and Ethan moved instinctively to support her, his arm around her waist. Roman confessed everything before he died. How he killed the former Alpha King because he disapproved of Roman's methods. How he buried me alive because I was unsuitable. How he... Her voice caught, and Ethan felt her tremble against him. How he murdered our unborn child through torture and neglect. The courtyard went deathly silent. Ava's hand moved to her stomach. A gesture so heartbreaking that even the most hardened wolves looked away. So don't talk to me about sacrifice, she continued, her voice thick with grief but steady. Don't tell me about what's good for the pack. Because the wolves who claimed to know what was best took everything from me. From us. And I am still standing here. She lifted her chin, meeting the eyes of every wolf who would look at her. I am an Omega. I will never be a warrior. I will never lead you into battle. But I will never betray you. I will never scheme behind your backs or bury innocent wolves beneath your feet. And if that's not enough for you, if you need someone with strong blood or the right lineage, then you're welcome to leave. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a young wolf stepped forward. It was Lily, a teenager who worked in the kitchens. She dropped to one knee, her head bowed. I stand with my queen. Another wolf moved. Then another. Slowly, like a wave, more and more pack members dropped to their knees, young and old, warriors and workers, male and female. But not everyone. Elder Dane remained standing. And with him, perhaps a third of the pack. I cannot accept this, Dane said heavily. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. But I cannot serve under an Omega Queen. Ethan's jaw clenched. Then you know where the border is. Dane nodded slowly. I do. He turned to the wolves still standing. Any who wish to come with me, you have until sunset to gather your things. The crowd began to fracture, some wolves moving toward Dane, others staying kneeling. Families split apart. Friends chose different sides. And Ethan watched his pack tear itself in two. By sunset, nearly 40 wolves had left. Ethan stood at the northern border, watching as the last of them disappeared into the trees. Dane led them, his shoulders bent with age, but his stride steady. Liam stood beside Ethan, his expression grim. That's almost a quarter of our fighting force. I know. Other packs will hear about this. They'll see us as vulnerable. Let them. Ethan. I said let them. Ethan's voice was hard. If wolves only stay out of fear or tradition, then they were never truly loyal. This pack will be stronger for it. Liam sighed, but didn't argue. What about the council? We still need advisors. Then we'll choose new ones. Wolves who've proven their loyalty. Who value integrity over bloodlines. Ethan paused. I want you to lead the selection process. Liam blinked. Me? You've been at my side through everything. You didn't question when I tore apart the ceremony hall. You didn't hesitate when I went after Roman. You've earned my trust, Liam. And I need wolves like you helping me rebuild. Liam's throat worked. I won't let you down. I know you won't. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the last traces of daylight fade from the sky. Then Liam spoke again, his voice careful. How is she? Ethan's expression softened. Stronger every day. Margaret says she's healing faster than expected. And the bond. Growing stronger. Ethan's hand moved unconsciously to his chest, where he could feel the constant warm presence of Ava through their connection. I can feel her emotions now. Her pain. Her grief. But also her determination. Her strength. She's remarkable, Liam said quietly. The way she stood up to the pack today. I've seen warriors with less courage. Ethan's lips curved into a small smile. She always was. I just wish I'd been strong enough to fight for her 4 years ago. You didn't know. I should have. Ethan's voice turned bitter. I should have trusted my instincts. Trusted the bond. Instead, I let the council convince me she'd left. I let them bury her while I... Stop. Liam's hand landed on his shoulder. You can't change the past. All you can do is make sure the future is different. Ethan nodded, but the guilt still churned in his gut. I'm sorry, he sent through the bond, knowing Ava would feel it even from this distance. Stop apologizing, came her immediate response, warm and gentle. I'm here. That's all that matters. I love you. I love you too. Now come home. I'm cold without you. Ethan's smile widened. I need to get back. Liam grinned. Go. I'll handle the border patrols. Ethan didn't need to be told twice. He found Ava in their shared chambers. Their chambers now, no more hiding, no more separation, curled up in the oversized chair by the fireplace. She'd gained a little weight in the past few days. The hollowness in her cheeks was starting to fill out. The color was returning to her skin. But the scars remained. And Ethan knew they always would. You're staring, Ava said without opening her eyes. I'm admiring. She smiled, finally looking at him. How many left? 42. Her smile faded. I'm sorry. Don't be. Ethan crossed to her, kneeling beside the chair so they were eye level. You did nothing wrong. This was always going to happen. Better to know now who we can trust. Ava's hand came up to cup his face. You're a good king, Ethan. Even if some of them can't see it. I'm a king who failed to protect his mate. You're a king who was lied to. Her thumb brushed across his cheekbone. And when you learned the truth, you tore the world apart to find me. That's not failure. That's love. Ethan leaned into her touch, closing his eyes. I still dream about it. Finding you in that cell. How close I came to losing you forever. But you didn't lose me. I lost our child. Ava's hand stilled. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she said, very softly, I dream about them too. Wonder what they would have looked like. Would they have had your eyes? My smile? Would they have been an alpha or an omega or something in between? Ethan's throat tightened. I'm sorry I wasn't there. That you had to go through that alone. I know. Ava's voice was thick with unshed tears. And I forgive you. I've forgiven you 100 times already. But Ethan, I need you to forgive yourself. I don't know if I can. Then let me help you. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his. We'll heal together. Grieve together. And when we're ready, if we're ready, we'll try again. But right now, I just need you. Just you. Ethan's arms came around her, pulling her close. She was so small, so fragile still, but there was steel in her spine. Fire in her heart. She was his mate. His queen. His everything. I'm not going anywhere, he whispered into her hair. Never again. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, the firelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. And for the first time in 4 years, the silence between them felt like peace. But peace, Ethan was learning, was always temporary. The attack came 3 days later. Ethan woke to the sound of warning howls, long, haunting cries that signaled danger at the borders. He was out of bed in an instant, Ava stirring beside him. What? Stay here. He was already pulling on clothes, his wolf surging beneath his skin. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me or Liam. Ethan. Please, Ava. He turned back to her, his eyes already shifting to gold. I can't fight if I'm worried about you. She nodded, fear flickering across her face. Be careful. He kissed her hard and fast, then ran. The courtyard was chaos. Wolves in various states of shift ran in all directions. Liam met him halfway, already in his beta form, a massive gray wolf with silver markings. What's happening? Ethan demanded through the pack link. Rogues, Liam's mental voice was grim. A lot of them. They're hitting the eastern and southern borders simultaneously. Coordinated attack. Yes. Ethan's blood ran cold. Rogues didn't coordinate. They were loners, outcasts, wolves without packs. Unless someone was leading them. How many? At least 50. Maybe more. 50 rogues was a small army. And with 40 of their warriors gone. We can't hold both borders, Zach's voice cut into the link. He was stationed at the southern border, and Ethan could hear the sounds of combat through the connection. We need reinforcements. Hold as long as you can, Ethan ordered. I'm coming. He shifted mid-stride, his massive black wolf tearing across the territory toward the southern border. Liam and a dozen warriors followed. But as they ran, dread coiled in Ethan's stomach. This wasn't random. This was planned. Which meant someone knew the pack was divided. Someone knew they were vulnerable. And someone wanted to take advantage of it. The question was, who? The battle at the southern border was brutal. Rogues poured through the trees, wild-eyed and savage. They fought with the desperation of wolves who had nothing to lose, throwing themselves at Ethan's warriors with reckless abandon. Ethan tore through them like a force of nature, his jaws crushing throats, his claws opening bellies. Blood soaked the ground. The air filled with the sounds of snarls and screams. But for every rogue that fell, 2 more seemed to take their place. This is wrong, Liam's voice echoed in his mind. Where are they all coming from? Ethan didn't have an answer. And then he felt it. A spike of pure terror through the bond. Ava. His head snapped up, his wolf howling in anguish. She was in danger. Liam, take command, he ordered, already turning. Ethan, wait. But Ethan was already running, abandoning the border, abandoning his warriors, every instinct screaming at him to get to his mate. The bond pulled him back toward the palace, and with every step, the terror grew stronger. Hold on, he sent desperately. I'm coming. Just hold on. No response. Ethan ran faster, his wolf pushing beyond exhaustion, beyond pain. And as the palace came into view, he saw it. Smoke rising from the eastern wing. Fire. The palace was on fire. And Ava was inside. Will Ethan reach Ava in time? Who orchestrated this attack? Comment your theories and subscribe, because this is going to change everything. Ethan crashed through the palace doors in his wolf form, the heat hitting him like a physical wall. Smoke choked the air, thick and black, making it nearly impossible to see. He shifted back, covering his mouth with his arm as he pushed deeper into the burning building. Ava. His voice was raw, desperate. Through the bond, he could feel her, terrified, struggling, alive. But the connection was muffled, suppressed somehow. Magic. The realization hit him like ice water. This wasn't just an attack. This was a trap. The rogues at the borders were a distraction. The real target had always been Ava. Ethan's wolf snarled, driving him forward through the flames. The eastern wing was an inferno, the ancient wood crackling and collapsing around him. He navigated by instinct and the bond, following that faint thread of connection through the smoke and heat. Their chambers were in the eastern wing. His heart stopped. He ran faster, ignoring the burning timbers that fell around him, ignoring the way his skin blistered from the heat. Nothing mattered except reaching her. The door to their chambers was blown off its hinges, hanging at an angle. Ethan barreled through and froze. Ava was pinned against the far wall by a wolf he didn't recognize, massive, scarred, with one milky white eye. The rogue's claws were at her throat, drawing thin lines of blood. But what stopped Ethan cold wasn't the rogue. It was the woman standing beside him. She was tall, elegant, with raven-black hair and eyes the color of fresh blood. Her hands glowed with the same sickly green magic Roman had used. A witch. But not Mara. This one was powerful. Alpha King, the witch purred, her voice like poisoned honey. So good of you to join us. Ethan's claws extended, his eyes flashing black. Let her go. The witch laughed. I don't think so. You see, Ava is the key to everything. Roman understood that. He just didn't have the vision to see it through. Who are you? My name is Kara. And I'm here to finish what Roman started. Ethan's mind raced. Roman had worked with Mara, the witch who'd suppressed the bond. But Kara was something different. Something worse. What do you want? What do I want? Kara's smile widened. I want what every witch has wanted for centuries, freedom from the wolves who've hunted us, persecuted us, driven us into hiding. And you, Alpha King, are going to give it to me. I'd rather die. Oh, I'm not going to kill you. Kara's fingers traced a pattern in the air, and green light followed her movements. I'm going to break you. And your precious mate is going to help me do it. She snapped her fingers. The rogue's claws dug deeper into Ava's throat. She gasped, her eyes wide with pain and fear, and blood ran down her neck in rivulets. Stop. Ethan lunged forward, but Kara gestured and invisible force slammed into him, pinning him to the floor. Here's what's going to happen, Kara said conversationally, as if she wasn't threatening murder. You're going to renounce your crown. You're going to order every pack in the region to grant witches sanctuary. And you're going to make it law that harming a witch is punishable by death. Or I kill her. Slowly. While you watch. Kara's eyes glittered with malice. And then I'll take your body, use dark magic to puppet you, and make those laws anyway. But at least this way, your mate gets to live. Ethan's chest heaved. His wolf thrashed against the magical restraints, desperate to reach Ava. Through the bond, he felt her terror. Her pain. But also, don't, Ava's voice whispered in his mind, weak but determined. Don't give in to her. I can't lose you, he sent back desperately. You won't. Even through the fear, there was steel in her mental voice. Trust me. Trust us. Ethan's eyes met hers across the room. And in that moment, everything clicked into place. The bond. The mate bond that had survived 4 years of suppression. The bond that had let him find her beneath the ceremony hall. The bond that Roman and Mara had tried to break but couldn't. It wasn't just a connection. It was a weapon. Ethan closed his eyes, reaching deep into the bond, pouring everything he had into it, his love, his strength, his power. He felt Ava on the other end, reaching back, her own strength rising to meet his despite her weakness. And together, they pulled. The bond exploded outward. Kara screamed, her magic shattering like glass. The rogue holding Ava was thrown back, crashing into the wall with enough force to crack stone. And Ethan was free. He shifted mid-leap, his massive black wolf form crashing into the rogue before it could recover. Teeth met throat. Bones crunched. The rogue went limp. Kara was already backing toward the window, her hands crackling with desperate magic. This isn't over. Yes, Ava's voice rang out, clear and strong. It is. She stood, her hand pressed against the wall, and for the first time, Ethan felt it. Power. Not alpha power. Not physical strength. But something older. Something that resonated with the bond between them, with the very foundation of what it meant to be mates. Ava's eyes glowed, not gold like a wolf's, but pure white, like moonlight made manifest. You tried to break our bond, Ava said, and her voice echoed with something beyond herself. But bonds forged by the moon goddess cannot be broken. Not by magic. Not by torture. Not by death. She stepped forward, and Kara stumbled back. You wanted to use me as a weapon against him, Ava continued. But you forgot something. I'm not just his weakness. Light erupted from her hands, pure, silver, burning. I'm his strength. The light hit Kara like a tidal wave. The witch screamed, her body convulsing, her dark magic consuming itself from the inside out. She clawed at the window, trying to escape, but the light followed her, wrapping around her like chains. This is for every wolf you've harmed, Ava said softly. For every bond you've tried to break. For the child I lost because of your kind. Please, Kara's voice was raw with terror. No. The light squeezed. Kara shattered into ash. And then the light faded, and Ava collapsed. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground, shifting back to his human form, cradling her against his chest. Ava. Ava. Her eyes fluttered open, back to their normal hazel now, but filled with exhaustion. Did it work? You were magnificent. Ethan's voice broke. But what was that? That power. I don't know. Ava's hand lifted weakly to touch his face. When you reached through the bond, I felt the moon goddess. She showed me that our bond was more than connection. It was protection. And I could use it too. She broke off, coughing. Blood flecked her lips. Margaret. Ethan roared, even as he lifted Ava into his arms. I need the healer now. But Margaret was nowhere near the burning wing. Ethan made a decision. He ran through the flames, through the collapsing corridors, his only focus getting Ava to safety. Behind him, he heard shouts as his warriors finally arrived, working to contain the fire. But Ethan didn't stop until he reached the healer's quarters on the opposite side of the palace. Margaret took one look at Ava and went pale. What happened? Magic. Dark magic. And then she destroyed it somehow. Used the mate bond too, I don't know. But she's hurt. Margaret was already working, her hands moving over Ava's body, checking vitals, applying salves. Her body's in shock. The power she used, it was too much. She's not strong enough yet for something like that. Will she? She'll live. Margaret's tone was firm. But Ethan, she needs rest. Real rest. No more battles. No more magic. Her body is still recovering from 4 years of torture. If she pushes herself again like this, she won't. Ethan's voice was steel. I'll make sure of it. Margaret nodded and continued her work. And Ethan sat beside Ava, holding her hand, feeling the steady beat of her heart through the bond. She'd saved him. After everything she'd been through, after all the ways he'd failed to protect her, she'd been the one to save him. Hours later, when the fires were extinguished and the rogues driven off, Liam found Ethan still sitting beside Ava's bed. The borders are secure, Liam reported quietly. We lost 12 warriors. Another 20 injured. But we held. Good. The witch Kara. Did she? Ava destroyed her. Ethan's voice was soft with awe. Used our mate bond somehow. Channeled the moon goddess's power through it. Liam's eyes widened. I've never heard of anything like that. Neither have I. Ethan looked down at Ava's sleeping face. But it saved us. Saved me. She's stronger than any of us realized. She always was. Ethan's thumb stroked gently over her knuckles. We were just too blind to see it. Liam was quiet for a moment. Then, the pack wants to see you both. They want to know what happened. And Ethan, after what happened today, after seeing what she can do. They're scared, Ethan finished. Some of them. But others, Liam hesitated. Others are calling her the moon's chosen. They're saying the goddess blessed her. That she's proof the bond was meant to be. Ethan's chest tightened with emotion. And what do you think? I think, Liam said slowly, that anyone who can channel the moon goddess's power to protect her mate is exactly the kind of queen this pack needs. A small, tired smile crossed Ethan's face. Tell the pack I'll address them tomorrow. Tonight, I'm staying here. Liam nodded. Understood. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Ethan? Yeah. I'm glad you found her. And I'm glad she found her strength. So am I, brother. So am I. Ava woke as the sun was rising, painting the room in shades of pink and gold. Her eyes opened slowly, focusing on Ethan's face. He looked exhausted, his hair disheveled, his clothes still stained with smoke and blood. But he was smiling. Hey, she whispered. Hey yourself. He leaned forward, pressing a kiss to her forehead. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a mountain. Ava tried to sit up and winced. What happened? After the witch. You saved us. Ethan's voice was thick with emotion. You channeled the moon goddess's power and destroyed Kara. And then you collapsed, and I thought, his voice broke. I thought I was going to lose you again. You didn't. Ava's hand found his, squeezing gently. And you won't. Ethan, I felt her. The moon goddess. She spoke to me. What did she say? That our bond was her gift. That it was meant to endure. And that. Ava paused, tears filling her eyes. That our child is waiting for us. Not yet. But someday. When we're ready. When we've healed. Ethan's breath caught. She told you that? Ava nodded. She said loss is part of love. Grief is part of healing. But that doesn't mean the story ends. It just means we have to choose to keep writing it. Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her as carefully as if she were made of glass. Then we'll write it together. Every page. Every chapter. Together, Ava agreed, burying her face in his neck. And for the first time since he'd found her beneath the ceremony hall, Ethan felt something he hadn't dared to hope for. Not just survival. Not just healing. But hope. That afternoon, Ethan addressed the pack. They gathered in the courtyard, fewer now, but stronger. The wolves who remained had chosen to stay. Had chosen to trust. Ethan stood on the balcony, Ava at his side. She still looked fragile, but she stood tall, her hand in his. Yesterday, Ethan began, we were attacked. Our enemies thought we were weak. Thought that division would be our downfall. He paused, looking out over the faces staring up at him. They were wrong. We lost warriors. Good wolves who gave their lives defending this territory. And we will honor them. But we also discovered something our enemies didn't expect. He turned to Ava, his expression softening. My mate, your queen, is blessed by the moon goddess herself. She carries her power. And yesterday she used that power to save us all. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but they were different this time. Wonder. So let me be clear, Ethan continued, his voice hardening. Any wolf who doubts her place at my side doubts the moon goddess's will. And I will not tolerate it. He looked back at the pack, his eyes blazing gold. Ava is your queen. And I am your king. And together, we will rebuild this pack into something stronger than it ever was before. A pack built on loyalty, not fear. On bonds, not bloodlines. On truth, not lies. For a moment, silence. Then, from the crowd, a voice called out, Long live the Alpha King. Another joined in, Long live the Queen. And then the entire courtyard erupted in howls, not of protest, but of acceptance. Ava's eyes filled with tears as she looked out at her pack. Her pack. And Ethan squeezed her hand, his heart full for the first time in 4 years. They'd been through hell. But they'd come out the other side. Together. The worst is behind them, or is it? Comment if you think there's more danger ahead, and subscribe because the climax is going to be epic. 3 weeks passed. The pack settled into a new rhythm, cautious at first, like wolves testing thin ice. But gradually, the tension eased. Warriors trained together. Families rebuilt homes damaged in the fire. And at the center of it all, Ethan and Ava worked side by side to heal the wounds Roman had left behind. Ava grew stronger each day. The hollowness in her cheeks filled out. The color returned to her skin. Margaret declared her recovering better than expected, though she still tired easily and had nightmares that left her gasping in the dark. But Ethan was always there to hold her through them. The new council was chosen. Wolves who'd proven their loyalty during the attack. Liam as beta and head advisor. A young warrior named Ellie who'd fought with exceptional courage. A healer named Aaron who understood the importance of caring for the vulnerable. And, surprisingly, young Lily from the kitchens, who'd been the first to kneel for Ava and whose insight into the common wolves' needs proved invaluable. It wasn't a traditional council, but it was theirs. Everything seemed to be falling into place. Which was exactly when things went wrong. Ethan woke to an empty bed. He sat up instantly, his wolf on alert. The sheets beside him were cold. Ava had been gone for a while. Through the bond, he felt her not in distress, but distant, muted. He dressed quickly and followed the bond through the palace corridors. It led him outside, across the courtyard, past the rebuilt ceremony hall, to the garden. Ava stood in the center of the moonlit space, surrounded by white roses that bloomed even in autumn. Her nightgown billowed around her in the breeze, and her head was tilted back, staring at the full moon above. But she wasn't alone. A woman stood beside her, tall and ethereal, with silver hair that seemed to glow with its own light. Her presence was overwhelming, divine, ancient. Ethan's wolf immediately dropped to its knees inside him. The moon goddess. "Your Majesty," the goddess said without turning. Her voice was like music and thunder combined. "Join us." Ethan approached slowly, his heart pounding. He'd heard stories of the goddess appearing to wolves, but he'd never imagined. "Ava," he said softly. Ava turned, and her eyes were glowing that pure white again. But this time, there was no fear in them. Only peace. "She came to me," Ava said, her voice hushed with wonder. "She said there's something we need to know." The moon goddess turned to face him fully, and Ethan felt the weight of her gaze like physical pressure. "Your mate destroyed the witch Kara," the goddess said. "But in doing so, she opened a door that cannot be easily closed." Ethan's blood ran cold. What door? Kara was one of 13. A coven of witches who have been working for centuries to break the bonds between mates, to weaken the pacts from within. Roman was merely their latest tool. And now that Kara is dead, the others will come, Ethan finished, his voice hollow. The goddess nodded. "They will come with everything they have. And they will not stop until either you are destroyed or they are. Then we'll fight," Ethan said immediately. You cannot win by fighting alone." The goddess's gaze shifted to Ava. "But you don't have to. My child, when you destroyed Kara, you accessed a power that has been dormant in wolves for generations. The power of the true mate bond." Ava's hand instinctively went to her chest. "I don't understand. In the beginning, when I first created wolves, mates were more than companions. They were two halves of a whole. Together, they could channel my power, protect their packs, heal their lands. But as time passed, as wolves grew proud and forgot to honor the bonds I gave them, that power faded." The goddess stepped closer to Ava, her hand hovering over Ava's heart. "But you never forgot. Even when they buried you. Even when they told you that you were worthless, that your bond was meaningless, you believed. And that belief, that faith, awakened what was sleeping." Tears streamed down Ava's face. "I don't feel powerful. I feel broken." "Broken things can be made stronger than they ever were whole," the goddess said gently. "Your scars are not weakness, child. They are proof of your strength. And when the coven comes, you will need every ounce of it." She turned to Ethan. "And you, Alpha King. You must accept that your mate is not a weakness to protect, but a partner to fight beside. Can you do that?" Ethan looked at Ava. At the woman who'd survived 4 years of torture, who'd destroyed a powerful witch, who'd stood before his pack and claimed her place as queen. "Yes," he said without hesitation. She's the strongest wolf I know. Ava's breath caught, and through the bond, he felt her love wash over him like a wave. The goddess smiled. Then you have a chance. But you must prepare. The coven will come on the next full moon, 3 weeks from tonight. And when they do, they will bring an army of rogues, dark magic, and every weapon at their disposal. What do we need to do? Ava asked. Unite the packs. The goddess's expression turned grave. You cannot face them alone. You must convince the other alphas to stand with you, to remember what it means to honor the bonds I created. It will not be easy. Many have forgotten, or worse, have been corrupted by the coven's influence. How do we know who to trust? Ethan asked. You'll know. The goddess looked between them. The bond between true mates resonates with others like it. You will feel them. And they will feel you. She began to fade, her form becoming translucent. Wait. Ava called out. The child you mentioned, the one you said was waiting for us. The goddess's smile was warm. After this is done. After you've won. Then you will be ready to bring that soul into the world. But first, you must survive. And then she was gone, leaving only the scent of moonlight and magic behind. Ethan and Ava stood in silence for a long moment. Then Ava turned to him, her eyes wide. 3 weeks. How are we supposed to unite the packs in 3 weeks? I don't know. Ethan pulled her into his arms. But we'll figure it out. Together. Together, Ava echoed, burying her face in his chest. Above them, the moon shone bright and full, a silent promise. The next morning, Ethan called an emergency council meeting. We need to send messengers to every pack within 300 miles, he said without preamble. Invite the alphas here for a summit. Tell them it's a matter of survival for all our kind. Liam frowned. 300 miles? That's at least 15 packs, Ethan. Some of them are rivals. Some haven't spoken to each other in decades. Then it's time they remembered what matters. Ethan's jaw was set. The moon goddess herself appeared to us last night. She warned us of a coven of witches planning to destroy the packs. We can't face them alone. The council exchanged glances. You're asking them to trust us, Ellie said carefully. After we just had a civil split. After we named an Omega as queen. Some of these alphas are going to see that as weakness. Then they're fools, Ava said quietly. All eyes turned to her. She stood, her hands folded in front of her. She still looked fragile, the scars on her wrists visible beneath her long sleeves. But her voice was steady. The coven wants us divided. They want us weak, questioning each other, fighting amongst ourselves. That's how they've operated for centuries. She looked around the table, meeting each wolf's eyes. But we're stronger together. And if we can't convince the other alphas of that, then we don't deserve to survive. Silence. Then Liam nodded slowly. She's right. We send the messengers. Today. Agreed, Aaron said. One by one, the others added their support. Good. Ethan stood. Liam, I want you to lead the messengers. Take our fastest runners. And make sure every alpha knows this isn't a request. It's a summons from the moon goddess herself. Consider it done. The responses came faster than expected. Within a week, 10 alphas had agreed to come. 2 sent outright refusals. And 3, worryingly, didn't respond at all. The 3 who didn't respond, Ethan said, studying the map in his war room. What do we know about them? Zach pointed to the territories. Alpha Marcus of the Shadow Pine Pack. Alpha Charlotte of the Riverside Pack. And Alpha Dane. Wait. Ava looked up sharply. Elder Dane? The one who left with the others. The same. Zach's expression was grim. Apparently, the wolves who left with him formed their own pack. Named him Alpha. Ethan's jaw clenched. So he's not just a dissenter anymore. He's a rival Alpha. And possibly compromised, Liam added. If the coven's been infiltrating packs, Dane would be an easy target. He already resents you. Already questions Ava's place. Then we assume he's hostile until proven otherwise. Ethan turned to the others. Double the guards when the alphas arrive. I want security tight. If the coven is influencing some of them, they could turn this summit into a bloodbath, Ava finished softly. Ethan's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "We won't let that happen." But even as he said it, dread coiled in his stomach. The alphas began arriving 2 days before the full moon. First came Alpha Nate of the Ironwood Pack, a massive, scarred warrior with one eye and a reputation for brutal honesty. He greeted Ethan with a firm handshake and looked Ava up and down appraisingly. "So you're the Omega who can channel the goddess's power." "I'm the queen who will protect her people," Ava corrected, her chin lifted. Nate's lips twitched. "I like her. She's got fire." Next was Alpha Charlotte, not the elder, but a young woman who'd taken leadership of the Riverside Pack after their previous alpha died mysteriously. She was cautious, guarded, but her eyes softened when she saw Ava's scars. "I've heard your story," she said quietly. "What was done to you, no wolf should endure that." "Thank you," Ava said. "I'm here because I lost my mate," Charlotte continued, her voice tight. 3 years ago. He was strong, healthy. Then one day, he just collapsed. The bond severed. The healers couldn't explain it. Ethan and Ava exchanged glances. "Dark magic," Ethan said grimly. "The Coven's been targeting mates for years. Weakening the bonds, killing wolves from the inside." Charlotte's eyes flashed with fury. "Then show me how to fight them." "Because I want revenge." One by one, the other alphas arrived. Each with their own story. Each with their own reasons for coming. Alpha Leo, whose daughter had been driven mad by voices only she could hear. Alpha Nathan, whose beta had turned traitor and tried to assassinate him. Alpha Caleb, whose entire pack had been plagued by nightmares so vivid that wolves were afraid to sleep. All of it, pointed to the Coven's influence. By the eve of the full moon, 10 alphas stood in Ethan's great hall, along with their betas and key warriors. Nearly 100 wolves, gathered for the first time in living memory. And 3 alphas who'd been invited still hadn't arrived. "We can't wait any longer," Liam said quietly as sunset approached. "We need to start the summit." Ethan nodded grimly. "Gather everyone in the ceremony hall. It's time." The ceremony hall had been rebuilt after Ethan tore it apart to find Ava. Now it stood as a symbol, not of celebration, but of truth. The alphas assembled, their warriors forming a protective circle around the perimeter. Ethan stood at the center, Ava at his side, both dressed in ceremonial robes. "Thank you for coming," Ethan began, his voice carrying through the hall. "I know many of you traveled far, some of you at great risk. But what we face threatens all of us." He gestured to Ava. 3 weeks ago, the moon goddess appeared to us. She warned of a coven, 13 witches who have been working for centuries to destroy our kind. They've infiltrated our packs, corrupted our wolves, severed our bonds. And in 3 hours, when the moon is at its peak, they will attack. Murmurs rippled through the assembled wolves. "They've already struck at us once," Ethan continued. "Sent rogues and dark magic. But my mate, your fellow queen, channeled the goddess's power and destroyed one of them." Ava stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly with that silver light. "The goddess told us that mates are meant to be weapons against the darkness," she said, her voice clear and strong. "That when 2 souls are truly bonded, they can access her power. But only if we believe. Only if we fight." "And you expect us to believe this?" a voice called out from the crowd. Alpha Leo. His expression was skeptical. "You expect us to stake our pack's survival on the word of an Omega and a king who just split his own pack?" Before Ethan could respond, the doors to the ceremony hall burst open. And Elder Dane strode in, flanked by 24 warriors. His eyes were cold, hard, and glowing faint green. "No," Dane said, his voice echoing unnaturally. "We expect you to die." Chaos erupted. Dane's warriors shifted, attacking the nearest wolves. But they weren't normal wolves anymore. Their eyes glowed green, their movements unnaturally fast, their strength enhanced by dark magic. "It's a trap," Nate roared, shifting into his massive wolf form. The other alphas followed suit, the ceremony hall exploding into a battlefield. But Ethan's focus was on Dane, or what was left of him. "He's possessed," Ava breathed, horror in her voice. The coven is in him. Can you fight him? Ethan asked urgently. I don't know. Last time, I was reacting. This time, you don't have to do it alone. Ethan took her hand, and the bond between them flared. Remember what the goddess said. We're strongest together. Ava's eyes met his, and in that moment, understanding passed between them. They reached for the bond simultaneously, pouring their power into it, letting it flow between them like a river of light. And together, they released it. Silver light exploded outward, washing over the hall. The possessed wolves screamed, the dark magic burning away under the goddess's power. One by one, they collapsed, the green fading from their eyes. But Dane remained standing, his body convulsing as something fought to stay inside him. More, a voice screeched from Dane's mouth, feminine, ancient, furious. You think you've won? We are 12. And we are coming for you all. Then Dane's body collapsed, and a form of pure shadow rose from him, a witch, spectral and terrifying. She looked directly at Ava. You killed Kara. Now we will kill everything you love. And then she was gone, dissolving into smoke. The hall fell silent except for heavy breathing and the groans of wounded wolves. Ethan turned to the assembled alphas, his chest heaving. You wanted proof, he said. You just got it. The coven is real. They're powerful. And they're coming for all of us. Nate shifted back to human form, blood dripping from a gash on his shoulder. What do you need from us? Everything. Ethan's voice was steel. Because this isn't just my fight anymore. It's ours. One by one, the alphas nodded. We stand with you, Charlotte said firmly. All of us, Leo added. And for the first time in centuries, the packs were united. The final battle is coming. Will the united packs be enough? Comment your predictions and subscribe. This is the finale, and it's going to be legendary. The full moon rose blood red. Ethan stood on the palace ramparts, looking out over the assembled packs. Hundreds of wolves, warriors, healers, even young wolves barely old enough to shift, stood ready. They'd spent the past 3 hours preparing defenses, organizing battle formations, and saying what might be their final goodbyes. The air itself felt wrong. Thick. Oppressive. Magic crackled along the horizon like distant lightning. Ava joined him, her hand slipping into his. She wore light armor now, crafted specifically for her by the pack's best smith. It wouldn't stop a direct attack, but it would give her a chance. And she'd insisted on being on the front lines. You don't have to do this, Ethan said quietly, even though he knew what her answer would be. Yes, I do. Ava's eyes were fixed on the horizon. The goddess chose me for this. Chose us. And I won't hide while others fight for our future. Through the bond, Ethan felt her determination. Her fear, yes, but more than that, her resolve. Then we fight together, he said, squeezing her hand. No matter what happens. We fight together, she finished. Below them, Liam called out orders, organizing the warriors into defensive positions. The other alphas had spread their packs throughout the territory, creating a network of protection around the palace. If the coven wanted to reach Ethan and Ava, they'd have to go through everyone. Movement on the northern border, a scout's voice rang out. Ethan's wolf surged forward. Positions. The warriors shifted into formation, those who could shift taking their wolf forms, those who couldn't readying weapons. The tension was suffocating as they waited. And then they came. The army that emerged from the forest wasn't just rogues. It was hundreds of them, twisted, corrupted wolves with glowing green eyes and foam dripping from their jaws. Behind them came creatures Ethan had only heard about in legends, shadow beasts, manifestations of pure dark magic, their forms shifting and writhing. And at the center of it all, floating above the ground, were 11 figures wreathed in green flame. The coven. 11 witches, Ethan thought with cold dread. Kara made 12. Now there's 11. The lead witch, a woman with white hair and a face like carved marble, raised her hands, and her voice boomed across the battlefield. Alpha King. You have taken one of ours. Now we will take everything. Over my dead body. Ethan roared back. The witch's smile was cruel. That can be arranged. She gestured, and the corrupted army charged. Hold! Ethan commanded, his alpha voice rolling over his warriors. Hold! The corrupted wolves crashed into their defensive line like a dark wave. The impact was brutal. Claws met flesh, teeth found throats, blood sprayed across the ground. But Ethan's forces held. Alpha Nate tore through 3 corrupted wolves in seconds, his massive form a blur of fur and rage. Alpha Charlotte fought back-to-back with her beta, their coordination flawless. Young Lily, despite her size, showed surprising ferocity, her jaws crushing windpipes with precision. And Ava stood at the center of it all, her hands glowing with that pure silver light. She moved through the battle like a beacon, and wherever her light touched, the dark magic burned away. Corrupted wolves collapsed, freed from the possession, their eyes clearing moments before they died or fled. But there were so many. For every corrupted wolf they killed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The shadow beasts were worse. Physical attacks did nothing to them, and they tore through warriors like paper. We can't hold this, Zack shouted over the din of battle. There's too many. Ethan's mind raced. The Coven was staying back, letting their army do the work, conserving their power. Smart. If they could wear down the packs first. We need to take out the witches, he sent through the bond to Ava. That's the only way to end this. But they're protected by the army, Ava sent back, her mental voice strained. We can't reach them. Then we break through. Ethan shifted mid-stride, his massive black wolf form larger than any other on the battlefield. His alpha command pulsed outward, with me. We're going through. The strongest warriors, Nate, Liam, Charlotte, and a dozen others, converged on him, forming a spearhead. Together, they charged, tearing through the corrupted wolves with pure, savage force. Ava ran behind them, protected in the center of their formation, her light blazing brighter with each step. The corrupted wolves that got too close screamed and fell away, the dark magic consuming them from within. They were 50 yards from the Coven. Then 40. Then the white-haired witch gestured, and a wall of green fire erupted in front of them. Ethan skidded to a halt, his warriors pulling back from the flames. The heat was intense, wrong, burning not just flesh but soul. You cannot reach us, Alpha King, the witch said mockingly. You are strong, yes, but you are still just wolves. We're more than that, Ava said, stepping forward. Her hands blazed brighter, and she thrust them forward. Silver light met green fire, and the fire shattered. The witch's eyes widened in shock. Impossible, the white-haired witch breathed. You're just an Omega. I'm a mate bond blessed by the moon goddess herself, Ava interrupted, her voice ringing with power. And you've made the mistake of underestimating that. She turned to Ethan. Together. Always. Ethan shifted back to human form and took her hand. The moment their skin touched, the bond between them exploded with power, not just silver light now, but gold and white and colors that shouldn't exist, all swirling together. Now, Ethan roared. The other alphas understood instantly. They reached for their own mates, those who had them, those whose bonds were still strong. Nate grabbed his mate's hand. Charlotte touched the pendant she wore containing her dead mate's ashes. Leo closed his eyes and remembered. And the power of every true mate bond on that battlefield surged forward at once. The combined light hit the Coven like a tidal wave. The witches screamed, their dark magic disintegrating under the assault. One by one, they tried to fight back, hurling curses and dark spells. But love was stronger than hate. Faith was stronger than corruption. And bonds forged by the moon goddess were unbreakable. The witches' forms began to crack, light bleeding through the fissures. The white-haired witch stared at Ava with wide, disbelieving eyes. This isn't possible, she whispered. We were winning. You were never going to win, Ava said softly. Because you forgot what makes us strong. It's not power. It's not magic. It's each other. And with one final surge of light, the Coven shattered. The 11 witches exploded into ash, their screams echoing across the battlefield before fading into nothing. And the moment they died, every corrupted wolf collapsed. The shadow beasts dissolved. The dark magic that had hung over the territory like a storm cloud evaporated. Silence fell. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then, from somewhere in the ranks, a wolf howled long, triumphant, victorious. Another joined in. Then another. Until the entire battlefield was filled with the sound of hundreds of wolves howling their triumph to the blood-red moon. Ethan pulled Ava into his arms, burying his face in her hair. Through the bond, he felt her exhaustion, her relief, her overwhelming joy. "We did it," she whispered. "You did it," Ethan corrected. "You were right. Together, we're unstoppable." Around them, the packs began to celebrate, to tend to their wounded, to count their losses. They'd lost warriors, good wolves who'd given everything. But they'd won. The coven was destroyed. The packs were united. And the bonds between mates had been proven stronger than any darkness. 3 days later, a second ceremony was held in the rebuilt ceremony hall. But this time, it wasn't a ritual. It wasn't a coronation. It was a mating ceremony. Ava stood at the center of the hall, dressed in white that seemed to glow in the candlelight. Her scars were visible, she'd refused to hide them, but she wore them like badges of honor. Ethan stood across from her, dressed in the traditional robes of an alpha king, his eyes never leaving her face. The hall was packed. Not just with their own pack, but with wolves from every pack that had fought beside them. Alpha Nate stood in the front row, grinning. Alpha Charlotte dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Even young Lily was there, beaming with pride. The new council surrounded them, and it was Liam who spoke the traditional words. "Before the moon goddess, before your pack, before all assembled, do you, Ethan, Alpha King of the Shadow Moon Pack, take Ava as your mate, your queen, your equal in all things?" "I do," Ethan said, his voice strong and clear. "For all my days and beyond." Liam turned to Ava. "And do you, Ava, take Ethan as your mate, your king, your equal in all things?" Ava's eyes shone with tears, but her voice didn't waver. "I do. For all my days and beyond." "Then by the power vested in me by the moon goddess herself," Liam smiled. "I declare you bonded. Mates for life." Ethan didn't wait for permission. He crossed to Ava in 2 strides and kissed her, deep and passionate and real, pouring 4 years of longing and pain and love into that single touch. The hall erupted in cheers and howls. And somewhere above, Ethan could have sworn he felt the moon goddess's approval, warm and gentle, like a mother's blessing. That night, after the celebrations had died down and the guests had retired, Ethan and Ava stood in their chambers, the ones they now truly shared. Ava had changed out of her ceremonial dress into something simpler, and she stood by the window, looking out at the moon. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. "Everything." Ava leaned into him. "For years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd die in that cell, forgotten and alone. And now," her voice caught, "now I'm a queen. I'm your mate. I helped save our people." "It's almost too much to believe." "Believe it." Ethan pressed a kiss to her temple. "You've earned every bit of it." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Ava said quietly, "Do you think about them? Our baby?" Ethan's arms tightened around her. "Every day." "Me too." Ava's hand covered his where it rested on her stomach. "The goddess said they were waiting for us. Do you think?" "I think," Ethan said carefully, "that when the time is right, when we're both ready, we'll try again. And this time, nothing will take that from us." Ava turned in his arms, looking up at him with eyes full of hope and love. "Promise?" "Promise." He cupped her face gently. "We've been through hell, Ava. We've lost so much. But we're still here. Still together. And whatever comes next, whatever challenges, whatever joys, whatever grief, we'll face it the same way we faced everything else." Together, Ava finished, smiling through her tears. "Always together." He kissed her again, and this time it was gentle, reverent, a promise of forever. 6 months later, the spring sun warmed the palace gardens, turning them into a riot of color. Flowers bloomed everywhere, roses and lilies and dozens of species Ava had planted herself. She knelt among them now, her hands dirty, her face peaceful. Gardening had become her refuge, the place where she could think and heal and grow. Behind her, she heard footsteps. "My queen," Margaret's voice was warm. "I have news." Ava stood, brushing dirt from her hands. "What is it?" Margaret's eyes were twinkling. "You're pregnant." Ava's world stopped. Her hand flew to her stomach, and, through the bond, she felt Ethan's immediate attention. He was across the territory, inspecting the borders with Liam, but the moment she felt the news, he was running. Ava barely had time to process before Ethan burst into the garden, his eyes wild, his chest heaving. "Is it true?" he demanded. Ava nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We're having a baby." Ethan crossed to her in 3 strides, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. His laugh was pure joy, uninhibited and free. "We're having a baby," he repeated, wonder in his voice. "Ava, we're—" "I know." She was laughing and crying at the same time. "I know." He set her down gently, his hands cupping her face. "I'm going to protect you both. Nothing will touch you. I swear it." "I know that too." Ava covered his hands with hers. "But Ethan, I'm not afraid. Not anymore. Whatever comes, we'll face it." Together, they said in unison. And as Ethan pulled her close, as he pressed his hand to her still flat stomach where their child grew, Ava felt nothing but peace. She'd been buried in darkness for 4 years. She'd lost a child. She'd been tortured, broken, nearly destroyed. But she'd survived. And now, standing in the sunlight with her mate's arms around her and new life growing inside her, she understood what the moon goddess had been trying to tell her all along. The bonds we forge with our mates, our packs, our families are stronger than any darkness. Love endures when everything else fails. And sometimes, the greatest victories come not from never falling, but from choosing to rise again. 2 years later. The ceremony hall was filled with laughter. A small child, barely 2 years old, with Ethan's dark hair and Ava's hazel eyes, ran through the assembled wolves, squealing with delight as Liam chased her in an exaggerated game of tag. "Luna, come back here," Liam called, grinning. But little Luna just laughed harder, her tiny legs pumping as she ran toward her mother. Ava scooped her up, spinning her around. "Caught you." Luna giggled, burying her face in Ava's neck. "Again, Mama. Again." Ethan watched from across the hall, his heart so full it ached. His daughter. His daughter. Healthy, happy, alive. Everything he and Ava had fought for. Everything they'd nearly lost. "She's beautiful," a voice said beside him. Ethan turned to see Alpha Nate, older now, with more gray in his beard. He'd become one of Ethan's closest allies, visiting several times a year. "She is," Ethan agreed. "And she's going to be a terror when she's older." Nate laughed. "With you two as parents?" "Absolutely." His expression grew more serious. "You've built something special here, Ethan. A pack that values bonds over bloodlines. Strength over status. Other territories are starting to follow your example." "Good." Ethan's eyes found Ava again, watched as she played with their daughter. "That's all I wanted. A world where love is strength, not weakness. You've done that and more." Nate clapped him on the shoulder. "Your father would be proud." Ethan's throat tightened. "I hope so." As the celebration continued around them, as wolves laughed and played and lived, Ethan crossed to his mate and his daughter. Ava looked up as he approached, and her smile was radiant. "There's my Alpha King," she said softly. "There's my queen," he replied, pulling her close with one arm while Luna squealed between them. "Happy Papa," Luna announced, patting his face with her small hands. "Yes, little one." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "Very happy." And as the 3 of them stood together, a family forged through darkness, strengthened by love, blessed by the moon goddess herself, Ethan knew with absolute certainty. They were finally home. Not just in a place, but in each other. And nothing would ever take that away again. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey with Ethan and Ava. If you loved this story, please like this video, leave a comment telling me your favorite moment, and don't forget to subscribe for more epic werewolf romance tales. Their story showed us that love can survive the darkest torture, that bonds are stronger than any magic, and that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the scars we carry. Drop a heart in the comments if you're Team Ethan and Ava forever, and let me know, should I create more stories in this world? Would you want to see Luna's story when she grows up? Or maybe follow one of the other alphas? Until next time, beautiful souls, remember that your bonds make you stronger, your scars make you beautiful, and true love always finds a way. See you in the next story.